All right, it's Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to everybody. And this is my labor of the day. Went and picked up a 1950 U. This came from up around St. Mary's, Ohio. And I've been kind of looking for a U. Want to make a puller for fun pulls and different things. And I just looking for the right one. I'm not sure this is the exact right one, but it fit most of the bills. So I got it home here and unloaded it, and I wanted to get it cleaned up before I push it in the barn because it's not running. And so I just hot water pressure washed it. I got the hood, the muffler, the air cleaner over here. The hood's in fairly good shape. It's not all burnt out where the manifold is. The hinges are broken in a couple places on it, but all in all, it's not terrible. When I got there, one of the first things I noticed is it has 16 930s on the back, which I don't know why. I was thinking they all had 38s on them. So I've not seen a U with these smaller wheels on it, but that's what it's got. It's got 6x16s on the front, and they are in sad shape. It is definitely going to have to make sure that both of those get replaced. And the grill is in bad shape, but I did get a new in better shape grill with it. I did get a couple fenders with it. So I pulled the hood off. It's been repainted at some point in time because in the hot water pressure washing it started to flake a little, but valve covers were pretty covered with oil. You know, it's got years and years and years of oil buildup on it, so I wanted to get that cleaned. Obviously, I'd say it's had heads at some point, by them being red. The gas tank was clean, all that was empty, but it does have a patch repair up here around the top. The top of the exhaust manifold is broken. The 6-volt battery is dead. It's from, I don't know if you can see in there, from 2012, so it's no wonder that it's dead. The tires, we're talking about the size, but they're weather checked, but they might be all right for, I don't know, have to see about those. But I know they need tubes because this one I've already had to add air in since it's been home. The gauges are no good. The switch doesn't really turn well. Clutch feels okay, if that's any indicator. The steering wheel is the classic, you grab hold of it and your hands turn black. I think the seat has been worked on here at some point. And it's got the PTO, it's got the drawbar down here, and they have these extra platforms set here. The drawbar has been welded on at some point, even if it's the original drawbar. And what else? I did notice the PTO brake was free. That's something different because on my UB, Grandpa's old UB, it is not free. Gear shifter seems to work all right. So all in all, it's not terrible. I did put some water. I noticed I got it home, there's no water in it. And so I put some water in, and I had a waterfall from right there. So obviously it's gonna need radiator work. So we're gonna get this thing shoved in the barn so I can start assessing and seeing if I can get it running. Well, it's been a week that this has been here, and started going through it, checking it over, and I've decided that this is not the tractor that I want to make into a pulling tractor. It's just got too many things. It's been sitting too long. So I've already found it a new home of someone who will either take the good parts off, or they'll take it and make it into what they want. But I pulled apart the front end here. There's a lot of slop, and you probably can't see it, but that whole pedestal is very worn out. I looked at the valve train, it wasn't bad. This radiator is absolutely toast. The bottom of it is just completely rotted out. just too many things, more than I want to get into right now. It's not that I don't have the capability to do it. I just don't feel like spending the amount of money that it's going to take to make this tractor what I want it to be, especially when I have the 53 UB sitting down at my uncle's that I could do the exact same thing with, and it runs and doesn't have near as many issues. So kind of a cost to pleasure ratio right now. I think I can do everything I want with the UB. I'll send this down the road, and you know, there'll be some extra parts, I'm gonna imagine, because I don't know what he's gonna do with this. But anyway, I'm done with this. I'm on to the next project. And by the next project, I mean I have brought the 7302 gas into the barn. We pulled the U out and immediately pulled this back in, or pushed this back in, got it back here where I can work on it. This is the very first U302 gas made in 1970, the first of the last 109. This has been sitting outside for a long time. I'm not sure why it was sitting, not sure why it wasn't running. So this is my project. I wouldn't normally do what it's going to take to bring this one back, other than this is the very first one made in that model year, the last model year. So I think it's worth saving this tractor and making it, bring it back to its original glory. So today I've gone through it very quickly. I hooked a battery up to it. I had to clean up, since it's been sitting outside, I had to clean up terminals on the starter, and of course I broke that nut off because it was rusted. I've already used a can of Angry Farmer on this. But anyway, I jumped the starter. It does turn over, but I didn't have spark when I was turning it over, and I'm not surprised. I pulled all of the spark plugs out. I was going to do a compression or a leak down test on it, and as I looked into each cylinder, using a flashlight at the top of the pistons, there's a lot of crud on top of the pistons, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? If I'm going to do a full restore on this and make it look like brand new again, I'm going to rebuild the engine, or at least I'm going to go pull it all the way down and look at it and replace seals and everything, because nothing is worse than getting one of these done and you start it up and it starts spewing oil all over. So I'm not even going to mess around with any of that. I'm just going to start tearing this engine down, and I'm going to go through this whole thing front to back. This winter will be my project mechanically to go through it, to get everything the way it should be. The wiring harness is an absolute mess. This tractor, if you did watch the first video, if you see how the paint is burnt on the power steering pump and all around, it had a fire under here at some point in time. Now you can tell by all this would have melted off when they had the fire. So it's obviously been running since the fire, but the wiring harness is just, you know, not in good shape. So it's going to probably want a new wiring harness in order to run everything. If you can see the rust on that coil, just everything on this is rusted up. So that's my next project. Drawing out the fact that I got to tear this thing down. I mean, the starter switch is junk, and you can see everything's wet from, I'm already prepping it with Angry Farmer so I can take screws out and not break too much. I got to find the original seat for it and cut that one off. This is going to be a lot of work. The PTO's messed up, so the hydraulics are all going to, I mean, this is a this will be the most in-depth restore I've done by the time I'm done with this one. So that's where I'm at on this. And so what I've got to do is, I've already taken off the air cleaner. It's sitting on the floor over there. I'm going to go through and start undoing all of this, get the valve cover off, look what I've got, and just start pulling it apart. I'll probably take the radiator off and the whole radiator housing, take the radiator someplace and have it checked while I'm working on the rest of this. And now granted, this isn't all going to happen today. This is going to be, we're at the 11th of September. Hopefully this thing will be running, I don't know, in a few months, but this will take some time. So Here's my next project, me doing a whole lot of talking for I mean, just explaining some things here. I'm gonna have to find a lot of stuff for this one because this is, you know, the kind of restore I'm gonna do. I mean, it's gonna look much better than the 302 propane, but just like on the rear wheels, they're not completely rotted out. They're not in bad shape, but the pitting in here, once I blast it and I paint it, it's still gonna look like crap. So I'm gonna need to decide what I'm gonna do with rear rims, whether I'm gonna change it to spin outs and do it that way, or if I'm going to try to find another pair of pressed steels, which is incredibly hard because everybody wants those for pulling. Kind of the same on the front rims. The front rims are very rough, so I'm probably going to have to get new ones of those at some point. Just a lot of little things like that. That I need 2 new rear fenders because these are beat up beyond what I'm capable of fixing. That back one over there is smashed from the back. So this one's going to be a full project, but I'll take you guys along for the ride. I'll mention some parts I need, so if anybody out there happens to have a line on them, I would appreciate them. But yeah, that's where I'm at on this right now. So I'm going to get to work and start pulling this thing apart. So step 1, unhooked the alternator. Where I'm just going to need to take off the oil pressure sender down there. Got the valve cover off. If you'll notice, it is very dry. So it's a true indicator that this thing has not run for quite a while. Although it does have on some of the rockers there, they seems like they're set. Even the inside of the cover was very dry. That's an indicator that this hasn't run for a few years, I would say. No wetness. The good sign is from what I can tell so far, I'm not sure that this engine's been taken apart before by somebody, which in my book is good, because then I'm not dealing with things that somebody else screwed up when they were in here, or they lost parts and substituted. So far, I mean, just the fact that there's spacers on the top of each one of these, all the jam nuts are there, everything looks pretty good in there. So that's an encouraging first part of this. So we'll keep taking this thing away. I mean, definitely on the electrical side, I don't know why that condenser would be there. There's definitely on the outside of it, they've done some things, but on the inside, so far, I'm feeling pretty good about this. All right, I've made a little bit of progress on taking this thing apart. Basically got the wiring harness off, got the coil off, kind of all the wires going to the, yeah, I know what I'm saying here, alternator. Got my spark plugs out, everything off the voltage regulator. Kind of trying to think if there's anything else I did on this side. And then yesterday I took off the exhaust manifold and the carburetor. Carburetor looked pretty nasty inside. It's definitely, this tractor's been sitting, and here's one of the ways you can kind of see got some rust in the exhaust ports. And then I don't know if you can see in there, but the valve stems are, I don't know if I can do this so you can see it, but they've got some rust on them. So it's been sitting inside of the manifold, although I was impressed with what good shape this manifold's in. Most of them I get are pretty bad shape, but as you can see, there's crap has gotten down in there. So I'm going to guess they left the exhaust uncovered at least a little bit of the time that it sat outside. So I'm going to keep picking away at taking things apart and see if we can get this a little bit closer to being done. All right, I'm going to work on stripping more of this down today, and the first thing I did was drain the oil. So another indicator of probably things to come is this is how much oil is in the pan, which is about, I would say, half of what it should be. Here is the plug, and around the magnet there is a lot of goop. So who knows how long ago this was done the last time. When I opened the drain plug, I didn't get any oil on my gloves. I got water, which I kind of expected a little bit, but we're gonna I'm gonna let this thing keep dripping oil out here while I do a few other things, and we'll start opening this up this motor and seeing what we find. All right, so I took off the gas tank, which all those bolts were pretty rusted, but I've had them soaking with penetrant, but it still was pretty rusted. So I got the gas tank off, drained it. The gas that came out of it was a coffee brown, smells like turpentine. I took off the starter. Then I just took out the rockers. So I had one, this stud here for the rockers was stripped, some of the threads were, and the other one came out when I tried to take out the bottom because they got those jam nuts on them, and it just came out. So I just got that off. I just pulled out the rods, or the push rods, and I just mark, this is how I store them, so fan side, so I keep them in order, stick them through the cardboard. That'll go into the trash bag with the rockers to keep dust and stuff off it while this project takes place, because it will take a while. And so next I need to take out the copper S-tube bolt there, and then I need to start taking off all the nuts that hold on the heads there. So it's kind of where I'm at, and we'll just keep picking away at this thing. All right, taking the adapter plate off that goes on top. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts or whatever it is that hold it on, and then all the nuts on the studs on this side off. I just got done cutting my water tube over here with the reciprocating saw. I prefer to cut those rather than lift them off together because I'm doing this by myself and I'm not feeling like Hercules. And so yeah, now the next thing is to lift off the heads, and that'll give me a little bit better idea what I'm dealing with. All right, I got the heads off. They're down here. See, there is a little bit of rusty on that one. They don't look terrible. The pistons, I just cleaned off the top of these to read the numbers on it. It's an MS 13956-1. I think that's a stock piston number. The outer ones did have quite a bit of carbon on top. I'll walk around the other side so hopefully we can see this better, but the cylinders themselves don't look bad, and they're not really ridged at the top. There's a little bit of carbon, but they're pretty smooth all the way up, so that's a good sign. They look pretty good in there on those two. So next, I'll take the blocks off. I got to pull off the side cover here to see what the bottom end looks like, and then I'm going to have to work on taking away the water pump and power steering and kind of making myself some room to work on the blocks, but that can come later. So not bad progress for today. We'll just keep picking away at this project and hopefully get it to where she needs to be. I'm gonna hose everything down with WD-40 because there was still some antifreeze in there and everything's wet, so I don't want anything to start rusting. So that's where we're at for today. Well, this probably looks a little bit different than my last little clip I made, because it's been a bit since I've come out here and worked on this. But I had a stressful, kind of a crappy day at work today, so I came out and do what makes me feel better and started working on this again. Prior to tonight, I guess after my last clip, I pulled, since I pulled the heads, I pulled off the side cover here, took all that off, and the side cover's down here, and if you can focus, you can see little pieces of copper, and down in the oil pan, it's probably going to be hard to see, but there's little flecks of copper in there. So I wasn't sure what it was, so I pulled the pistons, and I think I pulled 3 first, and 3 looks pretty bad. So I wasn't quite sure, you know, it wasn't spun, but it's obviously not good. 4 wasn't terrible. 2 had a groove in it, and then I got to 1, and 1 is where the problem is, and probably why this thing was not running. This is a spun bearing. The clips that hold it there on the end to keep it from spinning are flat. It did spin inside the rod, so I'm guessing I'm going to need a new rod because it's discolored. I'm hopeful that they shut it down shortly after it started making noise. The crank doesn't look terrible. There's no grooves in it. Everything else, as you can see, that one's shiny and that one's dark. So what I'm left with now is I've got to split the tractor and I've got to pull the whole crank out. So tonight I came out in my bear of a mood and decided I was going to pull the radiator, so get it out of the way. And so I just used my little cherry picker there, lifted it off. I'll have the radiator gone through, just pulled the fan blade off, exposing the front of the engine, which just has crusty stuff on it. Next, I'll have to put on the splitting stands down there. I don't have my new, I was going to kind of come up with a new front stand, but it's not going to happen for this project. But I'll take all the bolts off around there and split it, and then I've never pulled a crank before, so you guys will get to experience that with me. I understand you've got to take stuff off the front and the back, and then I got to kind of move it back and then bring it out the side. So I will film all that because it's new for me, and then I'll take the crank, the blocks, and the heads to the machine shop and see what my parts list is going to look like. The cylinders don't look bad in there. I'm still pretty happy with that. The pistons themselves don't look terrible. So I'm guessing it was just the that spun rod is probably why this thing had got parked and sat for a long time. It definitely sat. When I did drain the oil, there was only, I don't know, 2-3 quarts in there. So that could be it. Obviously, I'll check out the oil pump when I'm going through this process, because I'm going to have it pretty well tore down. So I might as well pull that off, check out my oil pump, make sure everything looks good. So that's where I'm at now on this project. I'm gonna probably have some more stressful days at work here, which I'll come home, and what makes me feel better is turning the wrench for a little bit and trying to self-medicate myself away from my job, and then get this thing split, and yeah, we'll get through this project together. I do want to roll the whole tractor. I'm going to bring it forward, so when I split it, hopefully I got enough, I'll get that out of the way. I'll have enough room, but I want enough room behind it to get the cherry picker in there, because at some point while it's all split, I'm going to lift off the hydraulics and get in there and check out the PTO. The handle doesn't work. It's a mess, so I need to get in there and check that out. So we're going to keep plugging away at this thing, finding out all the things that are wrong with it. And you know, I'm really hopeful the crank is not toast. Hopefully my machine shop guy is pretty good. I'm gonna have to clean out all the copper from in there. Just obviously it was spewing that off of the rod bearing when it was going bad. So I might just end this video here and combine what I did before, and then I'll start when I'm splitting it and pulling the crank out, my next section of this. And then it's probably going to be a pause while I'm waiting to get stuff back, unless I film lifting off the hydraulics and getting it into PTO. I'm going to have to see how that goes, but I'll try to get this done now that plow days and all are done. The 302 propane put some work in on a plow day, and then the 69 jet started last weekend. If you didn't catch those videos, we were out playing and doing the whole purpose of having these things is to go out and play with them. So I've been doing some of that. And yeah, just looking forward to working on these and seeing what we can. I want to get this thing running again, and then run it all summer, check it out, and then if everything's good mechanically, then next winter I'll tear it down for the complete restore. All right, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you don't subscribe. I'm trying to get more people interested in this. I know the yellow tractors are, some people don't know much about them, and other people love them like I do. So until the next video.